Hi, I'm Karen.
And I'm Elise,
Welcome back to Poodle People.
where we talk about all things poodles.
Today's guest is Jessie Jaggers. Jessie is the owner of sharpedgesok.com. You can find him at sharpedges_Jessie on Instagram. And he is going to teach us more than we know now about scissors, clipper blades, sharpening, and how to handle our equipment. So I'm so excited to have you on the show because I think as a small breeder, one of the questions I get asked all the time is recommendations for clippers, clipper blades, how to use things. So I'm hoping you could first tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, and then we'll get to all that other good stuff.
Sure. Like I said, my name is Jessie Jaggers, and I own Sharp Edges Custom Sharpening in Midwest City, Oklahoma. I've been in the business since 2017. What got me into the business is that my sister owns a grooming salon and boarding facility, and she had been after me for a while, telling me that, hey, you need to be a sharpener. There aren't enough good sharpeners around. And I didn't think it was a real thing, sharpening. I thought, what are you talking about? Um, and at the time I was working in the mental health field, and well, I needed some mental health, which was to get out of that field. So I
That
was looking at
makes sense.
yeah, I was looking at a career change, and so I decided to go ahead and look into sharpening, and found out that it was indeed a real thing. And I haven't looked back since. It's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. Um, I primarily service dog groomers and veterinarians. That's the largest majority of my clientele, about 95%.
Okay.
I, I do some hair salons, and I do some knives, but my business is focused on groomers and the veterinary industry. And I noticed I'm part of a group called Groomer Supply House, and we're a collection of groomers, excuse me, sharpeners across the country who work for groomers. And we had noticed that there weren't, we talked among ourselves, and we noticed there wasn't a lot of education for groomers, and whether it be professional groomers or home groomers, um, as far as how to maintain their equipment. So we
Mm-hmm.
started, so our group, we're real heavy into doing education. I just got back from a show in Kansas City this last weekend where I did a class on the ergonomics of grooming. But mainly, besides sharpening, one of my passions is educating groomers on how to care for their equipment. Um, and so that's why when you reached out, I was happy to do this.
Yeah, I love that. I love that education is such a focus for you because, I've been thinking about, questions I want to ask you as a guest, and I'm kind of realizing that even though I've had poodles for a long time and I've been grooming for a while, I am probably, like I don't really think about my equipment that often,
Yep.
and I'm probably doing things wrong and shortening the life of my blades and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So, what is what do you see people do? What is the number one thing that you see people do wrong?
Um, so some of the most common things, it's not one thing, but there's several things that are really common that um, reduce the cutting effectiveness of your blades. The
Okay.
number one thing is that a lot of people don't realize, especially most professional groomers are aware of this, but sometimes a lot of home groomers aren't. That people will send me their clippers, and the only thing wrong with it is the blade drive or blade lever, depending on what kind of clipper you have, which is a little plastic piece on the end of the clipper that where you clip the blade onto that actually moves the blade.
Yeah.
That's plastic, so it wears out. And as it wears out, it doesn't move the cutter blade, the top blade. It doesn't move it all the way across. It doesn't make the full stroke and move it all the way across. And so they think their clippers are broken or their blades are no good, but it's actually just that blade lever is worn. That's probably one of the most common things I see.
Okay.
Um, Another thing that I see quite commonly is a lack of oil,
Yep.
um, and a lot of people use called after the blade drive. Another common problem I see is lack of oil. So if you don't oil your blades routinely, and I'm talking about during the actual groom, um, what will happen is your blade will overheat. It will also cause the dander in the dog's fur to burn, and that kind of gunks up your blade. It'll also cause a lot more friction, so your blade won't slide as evenly, and so you won't get as good a cut. It can even cause the blade to seize up, excuse me, with lack of oiling. Also, I see the use of a product called Cool Care, which some people will use to spray the blade to cool it down when it gets hot. But when they do that, that kind of strips the oil from it, and they forget to oil afterwards. And that product really causes the blades to gunk up. So I don't like to see people use it, but oiling and the blade drives are probably the two biggest things I see that affect the cut and that people aren't aware of.
Okay, so already you are a wealth of information because I am doing things incorrectly. So I oil after, and then I wrap in paper towels and put it in an airtight plastic container. But apparently I should be putting some oil on during my groom.
Right. So
And
if you're
yeah, go
grooming a
ahead.
standard, if you're
Yeah.
grooming a standard, and I have one as well, that it's a large groom, and so I would say at least halfway between, oil your blades again. Oiling at the end, cleaning and oil at the end is wonderful. Wrapping them in paper towels and put them in airtight containers, absolutely wonderful. It keeps the moisture away from the blade. But so if you keep the blade properly oiled, it won't heat up.
Okay.
And you will extend the life of the cut because they won't get build up between the teeth, which it's a lot of times when people send blades in to be sharpened because they're not cutting properly. It's actually that there's a buildup of burnt dander from the blades not
Uh,
being oiled properly. A lot of
okay.
times you'll see kind of a red color between the blades. That's usually burnt dander.
So I do use Cool Care, and that's good to know that I should not be using it. Um,
Well,
why am I using it? I'm using it to cool down the blade,
right.
but but the blade is heating up because it's not oiled, right?
Exactly. That's why the
Uh,
blade's getting hot. Or if you run it continually, but if you keep blade on it, it'll get warm. But if you feel it getting hot, if you'll stop and add a little more oil, it won't get like hot, hot. It'll get warm, but it won't get real hot.
okay.
Cool Care is fine. Some people clean with it, and you can use it to cool your blade down. But even on the can, it'll say oil your blades afterwards.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, as long as you oil after, it's fine. But using it by itself will dry your blades out.
So I probably read the fine print 20 years ago and then just stopped doing it.
Right.
If I'm so I have poodles obviously, and you have a
Mhm.
poodle as well. If you're just doing, face, feet, and a sanitary,
Mhm.
is that enough that you would not need to oil in between?
I would. I'm a sharpener. I'm going to tell you to oil every time you use them.
Okay.
Now, not necessarily during. If you're just running the clipper for literally 5 minutes, then obviously as long as it's already oiled, you're fine.
Okay.
Um, and most of the time, I'm dealing with groomers who are using the clipper all day long, every day.
Right.
Also, but
Right.
if a blade sets for any length of time, if some people only use their clippers, home groomers only use it a couple times a year. Then if
Right.
they do oil, when they bring them back out to use them again, the oil can get kind of gunked up. So I always recommend applying fresh oil.
Okay. Um, so you also on your website, I noticed that you have different clippers themselves. Do you have a
Hmm.
favorite, or do you
Yes.
like them for different applications?
They definitely, for different applications, but whether you're a professional groomer or a home groomer. So today, cordless is the thing. I only carry a couple of corded clippers anymore. Everybody's going towards cordless. Um, so one style has an external battery,
Hmm.
and one style has an internal battery. The ones with the internal batteries usually can, if they run low, you can plug them in and use them with a cord.
Yep.
Um, so it really depends on how you groom. Like if you're going to be like a lot of my horse people love the ones with the batteries that they can that they can take out and swap out.
Hmm.
If you're in a shop, it's easier to plug your clipper in.
Right.
A lot of people don't like that because they're like, well, if I wanted to have a cord on my clipper, I would just get a corded clipper. Um, and it really a lot of them feel differently in the hand.
Yes,
So
they
I
do.
recommend, if at all possible, if you can feel them in your hand, it's the best. But like the Heinriger style have a slimmer neck on them, whereas the
Hmm.
wall style have a little thicker neck. So also the size of your hand would, if you have a smaller hand, that the wall style might not be as good a fit because most groomers generally tend to hold the clipper upside down around the neck.
Yep.
Um, so, a smaller hand, the walls don't work quite as well with. And the weight distribution is a little different between the different clippers. My overall favorite clipper, bar none, are the Heinegger Sapphires.
Okay.
In my opinion, and the opinion of many other sharpeners and repair people, that is the most dependable cordless clipper on the market. Um,
And what is the price point on that clipper?
it runs 419 if it comes with a hard case and two batteries.
Okay.
They have what they call the Sapphire Basic, which comes with just one battery, and it doesn't have a hard case. It just comes in a cardboard box, but it runs like 315.
Okay.
Um, if you're not grooming 8 to 10 dogs a day, you don't need that second battery.
Right.
And even, you can have one on the charger while you're using one. So just depends on how much you groom. If you're not grooming full time, the basic is wonderful. And the reason I recommend them is because they're bulletproof. In 8 years of repairing them, doing clipper repairs, I've only had to replace one motor
Oh
and
wow. Okay.
one gear. I mean, they are just bulletproof. They're, as a repair person, I never see them in for repairs, so that's why I recommend them so highly.
I love your comment about how they fit in the hand
Mhm.
and trying them because I would now I invested in high quality equipment and I wish now that I had gotten a different clipper, I think,
Right.
than what I ended up with.
Yeah.
Um, because I've used other ones and I do have hand issues.
Right.
And there are other clippers that I've used that have fit my hand better and just
Mhm.
felt a little bit more natural. So that is a
Yeah.
really important tip for people
It
to
is
be thinking about because this is something you're going to use for years.
absolutely. So a lot of people don't have access to try them before they
Yeah.
buy it.
Yep.
So if you can go to dog shows or grooming shows, you'll see a lot of, especially grooming shows, you'll see a lot of vendors that having different styles that you can pick up and try. Also, if you know of any other groomers, whether professional or other, people who groom in their homes, get with them and try their clippers. It's kind of hard. I mean, I realize because you really don't know until you get them in your hands, and they're not readily available. Not, a lot of the pet stores don't carry a lot of the cordless clippers now, so
And
that can be challenging.
it is one of those things that until you've been grooming for a while, you don't realize that there are limitations. Like I loved mine when I got it. I was like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Better than what I had been using, which was an older corded clipper. So I thought
right,
I had moved into, the Mercedes world of clippers.
right.
And now I think I would probably buy something a little bit different, but it does suit my needs and I can't really complain. So,
Right, yeah. Like I said, there are a lot of them coming out. I don't want to talk bad about any, but I have ones that I preference, and that's why I say the Heinegger, the Sapphire in particular. And this is but the Sapphire, they're one speed clipper, will go through any coat, and unless you throw it against a wall, it's just indestructible. It's just a really good
wow.
clipper.
Yeah, that's good. Um, so I have two questions that I wrote down that I've been dying to ask you.
Okay.
The Wall 5-in-1.
Hmm.
Can you sharpen it or can you not sharpen it?
Yes, 100% it can be sharpened.
Okay, so
That
why does
is
everyone say it can't be sharpened?
because not everybody can sharpen them.
Ah,
I struggled with them for years.
okay,
And I finally got a system down now where I sharpen them all the time now. A lot of people have difficulty sharpening them. That's why they don't sharpen. They absolutely can be sharpened. As a matter of fact, they are the only 5-in-1 that can be sharpened. A lot of companies are coming out with them now, but they're making them disposable. And by that, I mean there are no parts available. With the
okay,
wall 5-in-1s, I can, we can get parts for them. We can get the little plastic housing where the tabs always break off. We can get those. We can get the cutter blades. We can get all the little pieces that go to it, the hardware on it. We can get all those. Wall makes those available.
okay,
Andis, Kenchi, Schernbau, all the other 5-in-1 blades that are coming out, they're not making any parts available for them. So Wall is technically the only one that can be sharpened.
okay. Good to know because I will be sending you some
Yeah.
blades. Just a,
Yeah.
FYI.
Right.
So also my other question is also about Wall.
Mhm.
The coarse and the fine 5-in-1. What should I be using the different blades for? I think I know the answer to this, but you tell
Right.
me.
So the fine would I think be more suited for um, the the face and the feet,
Okay.
um, and the course maybe for the sanitary area, or if you're doing body grooms with them, full body grooms, because the course just means that there are fewer teeth on the comb, which so the hair will glide through the coat easier.
Okay. Um, Another question that I had forgotten I wanted to ask. Every once in a while, I buy a new blade that seems dull.
Hmm.
Is it dull or am I doing something wrong?
No, it's probably dull.
Okay.
So I do a lot of work for Petco's. I sharpen a lot of stuff, and so I have some of them that actually send me their blades when they buy them before they ever use them, because they've gotten so many that don't cut out of the package. I'm not going to name any particular brand. But it seems to be rampant across all of them, but
Okay.
especially across the big one that starts with an A. Um, I just I hear that a lot. So just know you're not alone there. That seems to
Okay.
be happening. Quality control seems to have slipped a lot. There are some blade manufacturers like AGS and like myself personally. So my greatest fear is that I sell someone a product that doesn't work properly. So like all my scissors and clipper blades, when I order them and I bring them in, I test them before I sell them because I'm paranoid that somebody will call and say, "You sold me something that doesn't work." Because I know that fortunately our manufacturer we've had great luck with, but they do occasionally get through. Um, so yeah, you're not alone there.
I have to say, I learned the hard way. I had a brand new blade and I did not test it before I went to a show. And I got to the show and I took it out of the package and was going to tidy up his face and, do last minute touches. And it was just not cutting hair.
Yeah.
So I had to scramble. And I've always wondered, like, is it just, a certain number of them get through that just are not sharp
Yep,
or what?
that's exactly what it is.
Okay. So you do clipper blades and then you also do scissors, all kinds of things. How do you
Mhm.
kind of manage those things? And are clipper blades your biggest segment or is it small?
So numerically, yes, I do more. I do. I think last year I did 11,000,
Wow.
and I think I did like 7,000 shears.
Okay.
Groomers are, like I said, not biggest part of my business. And unlike hair salons, when I go to hair salons, they'll have a couple of scissors, and I may see them once a year, maybe twice. Because they don't cut it. They don't cut dogs that have coarse, dirty hair all the time. So they don't need to
Right.
sharpen as often. So groomers do. All 90% of my business is are my regulars that are on a steady schedule of 8 weeks. And so when you go to a grooming shop, they're liable to give you 10 or 12 blades or 20 blades and, four, five, six, seven, eight shears. Um, so yeah, that's what I focus on. I have an employee that works with me now that does all the clipper blades, and I do all the shears, and it allows me to focus on the shears because grooming shears, especially curved grooming shears, are particularly challenging because of the way that they're made to actually get them to work good as new or as close as we can. So
Hmm.
I focus exclusively on the shears now. I train him to do it. He can step in for me, but that's where I really chose to set myself apart is being really good at sharpening grooming shears and being able to sharpen and any kind of grooming blade, which he handles that. So that makes my life a little easier, him doing that, and I focus on shears.
Yeah. And so give me an idea. If I sent you, a few blades and some shears, how long would it take you? I would drop them in the mail, you would
Mhm.
get them, and then when would I expect them back?
Typically, I have things 1 to 3 business days, depending on how busy I am. If your stuff gets here and I've just got caught up, they may get done that day and right back in the middle of the next. I try to make it no longer than 3 business days
Oh,
before they're
wow.
back in the mail. Yeah.
So it must not take that long to sharpen a clipper blade.
No, my employee is pretty good. He averages about 22 an hour, I believe.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's pretty fast.
yeah.
Um, and
He's gotten pretty good at it. Good,
are your
go
clients
ahead.
mostly in the Midwest, or are they all over the US?
Well, my mobile clients and drop-off clients obviously are, but I get mail from Alaska, Hawaii, Florida. I get a lot of people in the New England area,
Interesting.
and a lot, yeah, from my website. I guess I have a lot of professional groomers, but I also have a lot of home groomers that send me stuff. I guess my web page, I told my web guys when I built it, I said, listen, I don't want to just appeal to the professional groomers because there are lots of people, because I know because I get people in my area that call all the time and say, I have a clipper or two, and they just have a few items.
Right.
So I get a lot of home groomers that send me in stuff too.
I like that. I like that you can accommodate people who are only
Yeah.
sending you one or two, which, you know, that we know you're not making a huge profit off of that, but it's nice that eh,
Yeah, I
you
mean
get
it's
them
it's
all.
cheaper than buying new blades,
Sure.
and it's just it's what I do. I sharpen them all the time. So it doesn't matter to me if you send me two or you send me 40.
Right. So you obviously have learned things about the grooming business that you wouldn't have known.
Oh yeah.
Are there any things that stick out as, being things that you didn't even know about the dog world or the grooming world before you changed careers?
Well, yeah, because so before I actually got into sharpening, during my transition time between my old job and sharpening, I worked in my sister's shop bathing, and a good friend of our family has a high volume salon that does 30 to 40 dogs a day, and I bathed.
Okay.
So,
You knew a lot
ex
already. Yeah.
yeah, well, but that's what but doing that, it. So when I did that, I learned about expressing anal glands,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's
Yeah.
not a big fan of that. Um,
No one is. Yep.
yeah. Um, Going home, and now I hear from my groomer stuff like they go home with hair. I didn't know hair splinters were a thing,
Yeah.
um, but evidently they are. And what I really have learned, I never thought of until I got into the business, and that's why we just did a class on the ergonomics of grooming, is that how much grooming can break for professional groomers can break their body down over time.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Yes, this is a
yes.
favorite topic of mine because I think all groomers are talking about their rotator cuff or their
Yeah.
carpal tunnel or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something's going out, and so in one of the classes I do, I cover stuff like there's a bunch of there's no one thing that will wear you down, but it's a cumulative thing over
Yep.
years. Like um, your for example, your blade drive. not changing your blade driver, that simple thing makes you have to take extra passes on each dog. Well, if that takes you an extra 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 12, and you do that for
Right.
years,
Yep.
not having your shears properly fitted, having the right handle type, and have the gel inserts, those are over years. That makes a big difference in your hand and developing carpal tunnel and stuff. Um, maintaining your dryers. Usually, when I see a dryer, it's because it stopped working. But what people don't realize is before it gets to the point of not working, for a year maybe, it's been working at a reduced capacity. So that means that you're spending extra time drying each dog. And it could be 10 to 30 minutes each dog extra that you spend drying. Well, how many dogs is a professional groomer doing in that year? That's that much more wear and tear on their body. So it's a bunch of little, and mats, having mats on the floor around you, working at the appropriate height, having your tub and your tables at the appropriate height so you're not bent at the wrong position. All these things, I'm sure you're already aware of this, but all these things add up over time.
So I'm not a professional groomer, but I do groom
Right.
my 5 dogs.
Yeah.
And so that's quite a lot of grooming. And
Yeah.
I only have one dog in show coat right now, but all of them are in modified continentals or something.
Yeah.
And when I built my kennel area, um, I had a shoulder problem, and I needed to be able to just drop my arm into the tub. I couldn't move my shoulder much.
Right.
And then as my shoulder got better, my elbow started to bother me. So I've
Mm.
actually had my carpenter change the height of my bathtub more than once. He's changed it twice to accommodate my issues. And
Right.
I don't have an adjustable bathtub. It's on a wooden platform, but I have definitely needed that accommodation
Yep.
where, I just could not pick my arm up,
Yeah.
or I was having excruciating pain. So I totally get that. And I think it's something that we don't talk enough about. In some ways, it's kind of like the horse world. You have to do exercises and treat your job as a physical activity,
Absolutely.
like a construction worker might do.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and you have on your website, people who are interested in learning more can buy your webinars, correct?
Well, so what it is I go and put on classes. I do them at some of the I've done some at some of the grooming competitions, but I do them at a lot of the salons. So I
Okay.
have salons that have multiple groomers, and they'll have me come in and put something on. And in those cases, it's a hands-on thing where everybody gets their clippers and their shears out, and we go over everything, and they can
Oh, I
change
love
things
that.
on their
Yeah.
clippers. In bigger settings, in classroom settings, I do a PowerPoint
Okay.
where I go over, whatever. Actually, I go over whatever I can kind of customize it. So if anybody wants to, I can, do like Zoom meetings and go over stuff or calls like this.
Okay.
Um, it's I don't have a like a oh maybe I should. You got me thinking maybe I actually should produce a video. I wouldn't want to sell
Yeah.
it. I would just give it away. But what I do have is on my website. If you go to the maintenance and repair guides, I have tons of videos showing how to do different things with your equipment.
Okay, that's good to know. That's a great resource.
Yeah, to teach you how to change your blade levers and your hinges and to check everything and your shears and um, yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
I love that.
yeah,
So you also have a standard poodle?
yes, Savannah. She is an apricot.
Do you groom her yourself?
Oh, bless her heart. No, I love her too much for that. She had one of my grooming clients, one of my mobile groomers, comes to my house every 4 weeks.
Nice.
The first, 1 week she gets a bath and a groom. The next 4 weeks she gets just a bath and blowout, and then we just because I love her to death, but I don't brush her. I'm a bad owner. I don't brush her like I should, and so I don't want her to get matted. So I have her on a
Right.
regular schedule.
Yeah. I mean, I don't groom mine as much as I should either, you know. It's always a battle with poodles.
Yeah. But I like her to I like her to look girly and floofy. So
Yeah, yeah, it's the fun of having a poodle, right?
yeah. So I get her taken care of.
Well, I have really enjoyed talking to you. I'm so glad that you had some time to come on the show and talk a
Absolutely.
little bit about your area of expertise. And this,
Yeah.
I think it's cool for people to hear about different kinds of businesses and ways that you could be entrepreneurial within the dog world.
Absolutely.
So before we close, how long did it
Yeah.
take you to, really get good at sharpening? You know,
Um, I would say probably a couple years. I mean, I feel bad now for some customers starting out. I mean,
yeah,
I
I
have
get it.
most of my original clients are still with me, so I guess I did okay, but
Yeah.
I didn't think I was that good until then. But yeah, it's taken time. I feel pretty confident about my skills now, but it definitely took time.
Okay. So it's a lot like grooming. I mean, I feel sorry for my dogs when I was grooming them years ago because
Yeah,
I still don't think I'm a good groomer. Um,
right.
but I am better, and I think that's all you can hope
Yeah.
for is to get better.
Yeah, I go to, it's like any other kind of trade. I go to continuing education. They have sharpening conferences, where sharpeners will get together and
Oh yeah.
we'll share techniques and we can take certifications to get tested, to see what level we're at and just share information. And so I try to go to one or two of those at least a year to stay up to date on the newest equipment and the newest techniques and see what else I can learn.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
All of these little pockets of information that you find out about. I love that.
Oh yeah. I am, I respect, a lot, most of my customers, they make their living with the tools that I sharpen, so I really try and be conscientious and do a good job. And, for the home groomers who are sending their stuff in, they don't have the money to go out and buy new equipment all the time, so I try and take good care of it for them.
Yeah. I'm sure it's appreciated. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really, really appreciate your time, and I've enjoyed talking to you and learning more.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed talking with you. I appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye bye. Just in case you missed it at the top of the show, Jesse can be reached at sharpedgesok.com. And on his website, you can shop for equipment, find out how to send him clipper blades, and generally get more information and education about grooming equipment. So I've promised that I will add tips, tricks, and grooming hacks each week. So this week I wanted to tell you what my favorite dematting spray and detangler is. It's the only product I use by Hydra, but I love the Hydra. It's the Hydra Professional Ultra Dematting and Finishing Spray for Dogs, suitable for pets with long hair. You can get it on Amazon. It's $31.90, and it lasts for a really long time. I don't buy it that frequently, and I use it after I bathe and then as a detangler before I brush dry hair. So it seems expensive, but it is a pretty good value. And my favorite thing about it, besides the fact that it's a nice detangler, is the scent. I love it. I'm not sure why it's the only product I use by Hydra, but that's what I use for a leave-in conditioner and a dry brushing spray. So you might want to look at that and try it. My other tip this week is to have a bar of Kirk's Castile soap in your grooming bathtub. I use that when my dogs come in with really dirty feet, and I won't, if I'm not bathing, giving them a full bath, I'll just use the Kirk's Castile soap, which you can buy on Amazon or, probably your grocery store. and it has a nice rich lather and really cuts down when your dogs have really muddy feet. That saves you a lot of expense. You don't have to use your shampoo on their mud because you're just rinsing that right off, and I like that quite a lot. So those are two things that I use on a regular basis. As most of my followers on Instagram know, my dogs spend a lot of time outside, so they do get pretty dirty feet. And Kirk's seems to be the best at cutting that greasy dirt and really rinsing them well. So I hope that helps, and hope you take me up on those two hacks. Thanks for listening, and remember, a poodle will change your life. Please remember to like us on your favorite platform, or even better, leave a review. We really appreciate it, and it helps us get new listeners. And if you have any questions you want me or Elise to answer, send us an email at poodlepeoplepodcast@gmail.com. Just a reminder, we're not licensed professionals or veterinarians or handlers. We're just poodle people. Thanks for listening to this episode of Poodle People. See you next week.